G'day and welcome to our channel. If you're already a subscriber, welcome back. We really hope you've enjoyed travelling with us. If you're new here, sit back and enjoy our travels as we did. First up today is the beautiful Dean Village. This picture postcard village was at one point home to 11 mills, which together worked to support a growing Edinburgh. You can still see the remnants of those mills in the design of some of the buildings that are now homes and the millstones that you'll come across on your walk through. Dean Village is a short stroll from Princes Street, but we took a slightly more scenic walk along the water of Leith to get there. Next is the Water of Leith Walkway. As its name suggests, it meanders along the water of Leith from Balerno past Edinburgh to the rather trendy fishing village of Leith, which is home to the Royal Yacht Britannia. The walkway itself was completed in 2002 and spans 20 kilometres through some pretty incredible scenery. Unfortunately, we were only able to cover a small portion. We did manage, though, to see the Dean Bridge and the Holy Trinity Church, and at the time of day that we passed them, they had a very Harry Potterish feel about them. The Princes Street Garden is up now. It sits at the base of Castle Rock, upon which sits the almost impenetrable Edinburgh Castle. After initially being a private garden for the residents of the first street in the new town in 1816, it was reacquired by the council in 1876, much to the dismay of the residents, who in their tenure had forbidden cricket, dogs and prams in their gardens. While we were there, we entered the Santa Fun Run, which does however have a small fee, but we had an incredible time running around the gardens with a few hundred others all dressed in Santa costumes. The gardens themselves are free and well worth your time. Also situated in the gardens is the Ross Fountain, a magnificent fountain that was installed in the gardens in 1872 and refurbished over 140 years later in 2018. We move now to the Old Town, to the top end of the Royal Mile. Walking past the last of the whisky shops and tartan stores, the Castle Esplanade is revealed. It was built in 1753 as a parade ground for the local troops, but is now used as the venue for the annual Edinburgh Military Tattoo. If you were looking for a market to buy or sell sheep and cattle in the 1470s, the Grassmarket is where you would have gone. Said to have gotten its name from the grass in the pens of the sheep and cattle, it was also a place where many people were executed, including some of the Covenanters. Nowadays, though, it's home to a variety of stores and to what is reportedly one of Edinburgh's oldest pubs, the White Hart Inn. Quite a nice spot to spend an afternoon and evening. Just around the corner from the Grassmarket is Victoria Street. With the curving aspect of the street and the colourful shops, it's no wonder that it's become a favourite spot for tourist snaps, postcards and tourism ads. I'm sure many of you would have seen pictures of the balcony that overlooks Victoria Street. Having been constructed between 1829 and 1834 as an extension of West Bow and being named after the future Queen Victoria, it's one of the newest streets in the Old Town and really is a must-see. Like most of Edinburgh, and I suppose Scotland itself, St Giles Cathedral has a storied history. Founded in the 12th century during the reign of King David I, in its time it's been a Catholic and a Protestant church, and was a burial ground until Mary Queen of Scots granted a royal sanction for a new cemetery. It is also home to the Order of the Thistle, with the Thistle Chapel in its current form being added during 19th and 20th century alterations to the cathedral. The order dates back to 1687 and was founded by then-ruling monarch King James VII. The coats of arms around the chapel represent the current and previous knights and ladies of the Order of the Thistle. As I mentioned earlier, Mary Queen of Scots had granted land in 1562 to build a new cemetery, as St Giles had become a little overcrowded. This cemetery is known as Greyfriars Kirkyard. Since the land that was granted had previously been a Franciscan friary, it is thought that the name comes from the fact that the friars wore grey habits. Since that time, the cemetery has become home to the remains of over 100,000 people, including the infamous George McKenny, quite a few of the Covenanters, and one dog. That dog is affectionately known as Greyfriars Bobby. There are multiple tales about Bobby. One says that he was an opportunist that would come into the cemetery to retrieve scraps the local butchers had thrown over the wall, but it's more commonly believed that when the ever-faithful Bobby's owner, John Gray, passed away and was buried in the Kirkyard, Bobby would come to visit his master daily until his death some 14 years later, in 1872. Bobby has a headstone in the Kirkyard and a statue just outside on the corner of George IV Bridge and Candlemakers Row. It was also the cemetery where the supply of cadavers that aided the Edinburgh School of Medicine in their training of up-and-coming surgeons came from. If, like me, you enjoy going to museums and art galleries, be sure to visit the Scottish National Gallery. It was undergoing some renovation works while we were there, but the pieces on display, ranging from the 18th through to the 20th centuries, are incredible to see. Unfortunately, we didn't get any footage inside the gallery, but it is definitely worth seeing. Holyrood Park has been a hive of human activity for the better part of 7,000 years, with archaeologists discovering stone and flint tools and even a hoard of Bronze Age weapons in Duddingston Loch in 1778. It was used as a royal hunting ground from the 12th century and is also home to the beautiful St Margaret's Loch, which sits below the ruins of the 12th century St Anthony's Chapel. Holyrood Palace, Holyrood meaning Holy Cross, has been the primary residence of the kings and queens of Scots, Scotland and the UK since it was completed in its current form in the 1670s. It was thought to be more befitting a monarch than the cold castle on the rock. Another free thing that should be on anyone's agenda, unless of course you're not good with heights, is Arthur's Seat. A little bit of conjecture surrounds the name behind this magnificent extinct volcano that has overlooked what is now Edinburgh for several 100 million years. Some say it stems from the legends of King Arthur, while others suggest that it has been lost in translation from the Old Gaelic Ard nad Seed, meaning height of arrows. There are a few different routes that can be taken to ascend the summit. Most of them do start from the Holyrood Park side, and as we had just completed the Holyrood Parkrun before starting the hike, we took the green route, which, as it turns out, is supposedly the best way to reach Arthur's Seat. We are quite fit, and it still took us the better part of 2 hours to complete. Take your time, there is a lot to take in. The extinct volcano that shaped Arthur's Seat also gave Edinburgh its next two highest points, Castle Rock and Calton Hill. A 20-minute walk from the Holyrood Park side of Arthur's Seat is Calton Hill. It gives an incredible view of Edinburgh's old and new towns, Edinburgh Castle and Arthur's Seat. It is also the home of monuments to Scotland's national heroes and some of the significant people of the realm. The Scotland National Monument was intended to resemble Athens' Parthenon. Building was commenced in 1826 to commemorate soldiers fighting in the Napoleonic Wars, but building ceased in 1829 due to a lack of funding and was never finished. The Nelson Monument, erected in honour of Admiral Lord Horatio Nelson, completed in 1816. The Dougal Stewart Monument was built in honour of one of Edinburgh's greatest minds. He was a philosopher and mathematician. His monument was completed in 1831. An interesting fact about Dougal, and one that I thought was confined to royalty and Tasmania, is that his mother and father were cousins. Despite this, or perhaps because of it, he is recognised as one of the fathers of the Scottish Enlightenment. It is also home to the Democracy Cairn, built by the keepers of a vigil for a Scottish Parliament. It has stones in it that represent previous fights for independence as far back as Robert the Bruce and William Wallace. While trying to satisfy Emma's ever so slight addiction to op shopping, we stumbled across the University of Edinburgh on South Bridge. This university is the 6th oldest university in the English-speaking world and has been educating Scots, including Alexander Graham Bell, Charles Darwin, and Robert Louis Stevenson, since it opened in 1583. It was founded by the town council through a royal charter from King James VI in 1582 and became one of the centres of the Scottish Enlightenment. Wherever we travel, we try to visit Botanic Gardens. Now, while the majority of the gardens are free, there is a small fee to visit the Victorian Glass House, and if you're there around Christmas, the light show called Christmas at the Botanic is a must-see, but this also comes at a small cost. These gardens were founded in 1670 as a garden to grow medicinal plants and is the second oldest botanic garden in the UK. Much like visiting botanic gardens while travelling, we also enjoy parkrun touristing. So, while we were in Edinburgh, we did the Holyrood Parkrun. It's one of the most picturesque parkruns that we've done to date, as it circles Arthur's Seat and has some magnificent views along the way. Coming from Adelaide, most of our parkruns are quite flat, so it was a bit of a challenge, but as with any run, always worth the effort. The last stop on our free things to do in Edinburgh video is the Christmas markets. As the name suggests, these are held annually at Christmas time on the East Princes Street Gardens between the Scott Monument and one of the National Gallery buildings. There are some attractions that require a fee, like the Ferris wheel, but it is free to enter and walk around the stalls and soak up the Christmas cheer. Now personally, only recently being weaned onto red wine, I thought I'd give some mulled wine a try. While I'm sure many of you do actually enjoy this, I kind of felt like I was drinking warm grape juice squeezed through an incredibly dirty sock. Definitely not my first choice going forward. That wraps up our free things to do in Edinburgh video. I really hope you've enjoyed it and can use this as a potential guide for your trip to Edinburgh. Feel free to leave a comment below and remember to subscribe if you liked the video. See you all next time.